Hi guys, Jimmy from Boxing Life and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you my very own Boxing Life Awards, and I'm just going to give you my kind of opinion on those kind of key categories which we all kind of talk about at the end of the year. Things like Fighter of the Year, Prospect of the Year, Knockout of the Year, stuff like that. So this is totally just my opinion, guys. I've kind of like looked over everything. Obviously, not everyone will agree with some of the things that I say, but no, I'd love to hear you guys' opinions in the comments below and who you kind of think deserves to win these categories. This is just a bit of fun, guys, nothing too serious. And yeah, let me know what your thoughts are at the end of this video. So on that note, let's get right into it. First up, we've got Coach of the Year, and I think this is a fairly obvious one who deserves it, but some special mentions. Sugar Hill, I think, deserves a mention. I think his work with Tyson Fury in particular, when he was shouting at Tyson Fury in the corner to use the jab, you know, that's quite a iconic moment. And yeah, I think he's done well with working with Muhammad Ali's grandson as well, and it'll be interesting to see how he kind of develops him over the next few years. And the other trainer I was going to mention was, of course, Anatoly Lomachenko. Obviously did a great job behind the scenes with Usyk before he fought Anthony Joshua. So he did very well in terms of just, you know, preparing him. Not only that, he's done very well building up his son, Vasyl Lomachenko, again. So yeah, I think those two definitely deserve a big shout out. But in terms of Trainer of the Year, it has to go to Eddie Reynoso. He's had a tremendous year in boxing. He's obviously helped Canelo go undisputed. He's obviously helped Oscar Valdez beat Burchill, despite what you think about all the drug stuff. He's really developing Frank Sanchez, the up-and-coming Cuban heavyweight. He's looking very sharp and good. He's been training. He obviously got a win with Ryan Garcia at the very beginning of the year. And yeah, I think Eddie Reynoso, without a doubt, deserves Trainer of the Year. Next up, we've got Prospect or Young Fighter of the Year. And I guess this is a difficult one, you know. My choice might not be everyone's cup of tea, but you know, let's hear what you think. So I think in kind of some two mentions I want to make anyway before I announce my winner is Xander Zenas. I think that's how you say him, the Puerto Rican fighter, up and coming light middleweight. I really like the look of this kid. I think he is very talented. He's got power, and yeah, I can see a bright future for him. I'm looking forward to see how he develops. The other one I'm really impressed with, Anderson, the heavyweight, up-and-coming heavyweight. He has tremendous knockout power, and he definitely looks like he could be the next great American heavyweight in the future. I'm sure Top Rank will continue developing him and getting, you know, lots more knockouts on his record to kind of build up his name. But yeah, I've been very impressed with him. But for me, Young Fighter or Prospect of the Year has to go to Conor Benn. Now, I know some people might say he's a bit of a contender rather than a prospect, but I still very much think he's in that kind of development stage. He's been learning as a professional, and he's just continued to develop this year. He had 3 big wins. You know, got a first round knockout over Vargas. You know, he had a good 12 rounds against Granado, or 10 rounds against Granados. And then he obviously faced Algieri just there recently and got a tremendous knockout again. So he just looks like he's an improving fighter all the time. I'm really excited to see basically how he progresses over the next year again. But for me, he's definitely my Prospect or Young Fighter of the Year. Next up, we've got Upset of the Year. So this is an interesting one for me. You know, there's been lots of upsets this year, I guess you could say. And there was 3 that kind of stood out for me. And that includes Sandor Martin versus, I think that's how you say his name, against Mikey Garcia. And obviously Mikey Garcia, 3-weight world champion, losing to a very unknown fighter from Spain. You know, yeah, no one really expected that at all. Then the other one that, you know, which really had me, this is between the 2 I had to pick, and that has to be Kiko Martinez versus Kid Galahad. That knockout came from nowhere, and it was just tremendous, you know, upset for me. You know, I did not expect Kiko Martinez to get anywhere near that. But for me, Upset of the Year has to go to Kambosos Jr. versus Teofimo Lopez. I remember watching Kambosos versus Lee Selby the day before Teofimo Lopez went in the ring with him, and I just did not see Kambosos Jr. winning that fight, and he just put on a tremendous performance. You know, Teofimo Lopez, regardless if he had issues outside the ring. He came to fight, he came to knock out Kambosos Jr., and it just played into Kambosos Jr.'s game plan entirely, and he was just able to win the fight. It was tremendous, just tremendous underdog performance. And yeah, I'm excited to see where Kambosos Jr. can progress now. Next up, we've got knockout of the year. Now, this is always, it just strikes debate all the time. There's been so many good knockouts. There's always good knockouts every single year, and it can be quite a difficult one and quite an opinionated category to choose, as some people rate another one over another, but that's just boxing for you, isn't it? So, but for me, there's three that stood out. I thought Efe Ajagba's knockout, I've actually done a video on it. It's the slap hook cross technique video, so you can check that out, where I kind of feature that knockout of his. So yeah, I highly recommend you check that out. In second place, another one I another like devastating knockout, and it just built up over time, was obviously Fury versus Wilder. The final blow was just something else. Especially with Wilder just taking so much punishment. It was just a brutal knockout in the end, where it was just it was one of those timber moments, where Tyson Fury just clubbed him, and yeah, it was it didn't look like it looked like it hurt a lot. The number one knockout for me has to be Oscar Valdez versus Berchelt. I think that's how you say his name. And yeah, it was just, that was another one of those just clubbing shots, and he was coming into the punch as well, and just totally, knocked out cold from that one punch. And yeah, regardless what you think about Oscar Valdez with all the drug stuff, it was a good knockout. And I don't know, for me, that's the one where I'm like, oof, that looked very bad. So yeah, that's definitely my knockout of the year. Next up, we've got female fighter of the year, and for me, there's no question. I think it has to go to Katie Taylor. I'm a big Katie Taylor fan, so maybe I'm a bit biased with this one, but you can maybe put Amanda Serrano in there as well. But yeah, I think Katie Taylor, she's fought 3 times this year. She's looked pretty comfortable in all of them. So Serrano, but I think Katie Taylor and that Natasha Jonas fight, that was a tough fight, and Katie Taylor came through. For me, she's female fighter of the year without a doubt. And then our second last category is fight of the year. Now, obviously, this is another one that has much debate around what it is, depending what you like as boxing fans. But there was 3 that kind of stood out for me. My third choice, is might be a bit of a surprise for some, but I just thought it was a tremendous fight the whole way through. I was just glued to the screen watching it. It was just so entertaining. And that was, of course, Ted Cheeseman versus Troy Williamson, the 2 British super welterweights. And yeah, it was just a tremendous fight. It was back and forth. Ted Cheeseman looked like he had the upper hand. I didn't think Troy Williamson was going to survive. Then all of a sudden, Troy Williamson comes back into the fight somehow and then knocks out Ted Cheeseman in devastating fashion. And yeah, it was just a great fight all around. Great, just back and forth action. It was just tremendous. And I highly recommend you check it out if you haven't. Number 2 for me, and the reason why I'm picking this one is just, I pick fights that had me on the edge of my seat. And one of them was Kambosos Jr. versus Teofimo Lopez. I was on the edge of my seat the whole way through that. It was just a tremendous fight. I really enjoyed it. It was just fantastic. And obviously the knockdown in the first round from Kambosos Jr. just came out of nowhere. The intensity of Teofimo Lopez trying to get the knockout. The corner, the madness from Teofimo Lopez's corner with his dad giving him all this wrong information, and Teofimo Lopez putting on the kind of weird. It was just, it was just a very dramatic fight. And then even after, with Teofimo Lopez saying he won the fight, it was just, yeah, it had it all really, and I enjoyed it. However, when you compare that to my fight of the year, it's very hard to put it on top of that just because of the drama it had. And that is, of course, the trilogy ending fight between Tyson Fury and Wilder. And it's one of the fights I've just always been, it reminded me very much of the first fight in terms of just having me on the edge of my seat. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. Obviously, in the lead up to the fight, no one really thought Wilder could do it. He obviously had a new trainer. And yeah, I think people were kind of discrediting the fight, especially because of the whole undisputed potential fight with Anthony Joshua. It was just such a shame that we didn't get to see that. So it was kind of played down. However, it ended up being one of the greatest trilogy fights, heavyweight fights of all time. And it was just amazing fight. I really I just enjoyed it. It was entertaining. Obviously Tyson Fury got Wilder down first, and then Wilder came back and knocked down Tyson Fury down twice. And then after that, Tyson Fury came out and he wanted to take him out once and for all. It was just tremendous the whole way through. And the big heavyweights like that always attract the big drama. There's some brutal knockouts in heavyweight boxing, but I think just because this thing had gone on for so long, it was just a nice way to end this trilogy once and for all. But without a doubt, that is my fight of the year. And finally, we've got Fighter of the Year, and this is a really difficult one this year because there's so many guys I think you could potentially have a case for. And kind of third, fourth place, I'm going to have to give it to Josh Taylor and Kambosos Jr. I think the fact that they just gathered up all the belts, probably slightly lean more towards Josh Taylor, not because he's from Scotland, but just because he kind of worked his way towards the belts a bit more than Kambosos Jr. just having that one-off fight and winning the belts. And I think obviously Josh Taylor, the first undisputed champion from the UK in the 4-belt era, he did it on my birthday as well, which was nice. But yeah, I think he put on a good performance. He was away from home. It's a shame for Josh Taylor because there is other guys that have probably achieved just as good this year. And going into kind of second place has to be Alexander Usyk. I think what he did to beat Anthony Joshua, the bigger man, away from home again, becoming a 2-weight world champion, a heavyweight world champion, coming up from cruiserweight is just tremendous. And the way he boxed that night, I was actually there in London watching it in the stadium, and he just silenced the crowd. He just completely outboxed Anthony Joshua, and we were seeing greatness that night from a new heavyweight champion that proves he can fight at this level. And yeah, if it was any other year, you'd have to maybe put him as number one. But for me, fighter of the year, there's no question, it goes to Canelo Alvarez. Now, I get accused of being a Canelo hater on here sometimes. I'm not. I appreciate the guy's talent. I think there's obviously a bit of the shady past with stuff, but you cannot deny that this guy has just performed at a tremendous level this year. He's beaten 2 legit top world champions, world-class champions, in my opinion, Billy Joe Saunders, who I thought who was going to beat Canelo because Canelo struggled against kind of slick moving guys in the past. But Canelo has proved how much he can improve, proving how hardworking he is. And he just has that relentless pressure now as part of his boxing style, which makes him just so hard to defeat. It's very hard to see anyone defeating Canelo Alvarez at super middleweight. And even some of the light heavyweights or cruiserweights, obviously moving up to fight Makabu. And it's very difficult to see Canelo losing anytime soon. And for me, that to round it off, that performance against Caleb Plant, who I felt had some good success at the beginning of the fight, but Canelo, and he's just able to put that pressure on the opponent, and he totally deserves to be fighter of the year. You can't not say that he didn't. He fought 3 times this year. He beat 2 champions and he became undisputed. It's a tremendous achievement, regardless of what you think, if you think the other guys did a better job. Yeah, he's definitely the pound for pound number 1 in the sport right now. And it's definitely going to round off with being fighter of the year. So guys, that wraps up this video. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to hit that like button. If you're new here, please subscribe. This has been a fantastic year of boxing. I've really enjoyed it, especially the tail end of the year. And yeah, let's hope in 2022 these big fights can keep happening and we can see more undisputed champions in boxing. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. And I'm looking forward to 2022. And thanks so much for all your support as well this year, guys. I really appreciate it. And I'm wishing you all the best in 2022. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.